Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar, Team Up for Results, Collaborating with Your Board to Boost Plans Giving. My name is Jen Lennon. I'm a marketing coordinator at the Stelter company. And as an industry leader in plans giving marketing, we are committed to providing innovative solutions and education for your marketing needs. So we're happy to provide this complimentary webinar today, which is presented by Lynn Gomer, Stelter Senior Technical Consultant. Before I pass it up to Lynn, I just wanted to say a few notes about the webinar series. We're excited to bring you a full slate of industry experts this year in our complimentary webinar series. Today's webinar is the third we've done this year. We have a webinar slated each month for the remainder of the year. Topics include Metrics That Motivate with Ann Melvin, Questions to Start Gift Planning Conversations with Greg Sharkey, and we'll have a tax legislation update later this year with Chris Hoyt. Invitations are sent out as each webinar approaches, but you can also feel free to visit our webinar page at stelter.com/webinars to register for any of those today. So now back to today's webinar and the presenter. Lynn Gomer is our presenter today. She should be a familiar name to many of you. She has been with the Stelter company for the past 6 years, assisting our clients with all of their technical questions and ensuring that the content that we produce for our clients' marketing communications is legally accurate. Prior to joining Stelter, Lynn worked as an associate attorney for 10 years. She specialized in estate and charitable planning, probate, guardianships, conservatorships, real estate, and business planning. Lynn earned her BA in Economics and Communication Studies from the University of Iowa and her law degree from the University of South Dakota School of Law. Lynn is the president-elect and board member of the Mid-Iowa Plans Giving Council, and she's also a member of the National Association of Charitable Gift Planners Leadership Institute. And on a side note, Lynn is an avid triathlete, and a few weeks back she won the silver medal at the Iowa Games Triathlon, which I think is pretty awesome. So with no further ado, I'm going to pass it off to Lynn to get started.
Thanks, Jen, for that great introduction. Welcome, everybody, and it's great to be here. We have a very full agenda today, so we're going to just go over a couple things today, including board of directors and their roles and latest research. Then we're going to move on to the case for plan giving and how you can build your case for your board of directors for plan giving. Then some ways of how to give and the types of assets that are suitable for giving. Then we're going to go over the most popular plan giving vehicles, and then finish with some next steps and best practices. I will take some questions at the end of the presentation. If I get some in the middle and I can take them then, I will certainly do that. So feel free to ask questions. But we're going to start today with a poll. So you are going to see a question appear on your screen, and I'd like to know who my audience is out there. So what is your role within your organization? Are you a board member? Are you development staff? Are you attending with a group, including your board and development staff, or are you in another category? So go ahead and please vote, and we will see where we're at here in just a moment or two. Okay, it looks like 85% of you are development staff. We have 7% board members out there, and 3% are attending as a group. So I'm going to try to tailor this presentation and webinar more towards the development staff and how you can get your board on board with plan giving. So let's go ahead and move on. There's no doubt that your board plays a critical role in furthering your mission. Obviously, they provide leadership to your organization. But the message I want to get across here today is that all members of your board, your CEO, executive director, advancement staff must develop into a strong, well-organized, and coordinated team. There's various areas of 4 key reasons why all board members should commit to taking on an active leadership for fundraising. The first one is fiduciary responsibility. There's no doubt that your board is ultimately responsible for seeing that your organization has the resources it needs to meet its mission. Your board must be actively involved as part of the team to identify those resources and help to secure them. The second one is oversight. Your board has oversight over all fundraising programs and operations. They must approve fundraising projects, goals, timelines, and this includes plan giving goals and methods. The third one is they set the pace for fundraising. Board members should show their commitment to the organization by making their own gifts first, including a planned gift. I feel very strongly about this third one, setting the pace for fundraising. Your organization's goal should be 100% board participation in making a planned gift. It should be consistent with their financial capability, and it will be much easier for them to discuss with current donors, future donors about planned gifts if they have made a planned gift themselves. Remember, a strong commitment from the board helps convince other donors that the leadership is committed to the organization's mission and to success in reaching its goals. The fourth one is sets the tone. Think of this as the domino effect. Your board's level of commitment, their engagement in and passion for the work of the organization are major factors in attracting others who have the means to support the organization. Board members tend to fall short, however, in fundraising activities. Let's take a look at some recent research. On average, only 26% of board members are asked or join others in asking for money. 22% on average of board members met with potential donors face-to-face. And only 42% of board members provided names for letters and calls. I challenge each one of you, especially those development staff and board members out there, to increase these numbers. I think that these numbers are low, and I think that there's definitely room for improvement. So fundraising remains a great weakness for nonprofit boards, and hopefully after this webinar, you'll be able to increase your fundraising goals. So there is room for improvement, so let's try to find out how that we can do that. First of all, your board needs to become an active board member. They need to understand the long-term nature of planned giving. Remember that planned giving is a marathon, not a sprint. So they need to understand that it's about building relationships. They need to understand that they endorse the planned giving program's importance. Participate financially and serve by example. That was part of the 3 keys that I mentioned earlier. Find the budget to implement the program. We talked about, I know a lot of you have just maybe are starting a new fiscal year here with a new budget. Find that budget to implement a planned giving program. Actively solicit major and planned gifts from others. This is another one of the 3 key initiatives that I mentioned earlier. I think board members are very active in their communities. They're pillars in their communities, and they are in a great position to ask for gifts. Keep abreast of the planned giving activities, and development staff, that's where you can come in to help with that. You can keep them informed of what's going on, any gifts that have come in, how long you've been working with donors and things like that. And then they can offer expertise to the development staff. Each board member has a unique gift, whether that's in the financial background or legal background, or maybe it is in the fundraising background, but they all have a unique gift, and they can offer expertise to the development staff. Other ways board members can help. Join the Legacy Society. Get your name out there as an individual who has made a planned gift or has met the requirements for your Legacy Society, or some people call it Heritage Societies. Pick up the phone and call and thank Planned Giving Society members. It's a simple process. It's something you can do. Maybe take an hour out of your day, once a month even, and thank those Planned Giving Society members personally. Write a thank you note. Forget the emails. Forget social media and everything like that, sit down and write a thank you note, especially to your top long-term donors. And then cultivate prospects. Again, many board members are pillars of their community, and they are in a position to cultivate not only current donors, but new donors as well. Now, plan giving staff, you have some jobs to do as well in working with the board. Make sure that if you're implementing a program, you're involving them with that implementation process. If you're growing the program, involve them in that growth process as well. Educate them. You are the subject matter experts on fundraising and plan giving, so make sure that you are educating your board on how to build a successful plan giving program. Educate the board on plan giving vehicles. We're going to go over later in this webinar the top 2 plan giving vehicles, which are Bequests and Beneficiary Designations, but there are several others out there that work as well with donors. So make sure that you're educating the board members how plan giving vehicles can help your donors as well. And prepare clear, measurable goals and objectives. So what are each organization is going to be different here and what those goals are. So make sure that you are keeping them informed, whether that's at a monthly meeting or every other month or something like that, of how these goals are being measured, how they're being met, whether that's dollar amounts or the amount of planned gifts and things like that. Report to the board on progress. They always want to know if this is working, and will support you, of course, if they are informed and you can show that there's progress. Use your expertise. Again, you are the subject matter experts in fundraising and in plan giving, so make sure that you're using your expertise as well. So what's going to separate your organization from the other approximate 1.2 million charitable organizations from the IRS? The answer is plan giving, but it goes past that, and it starts with the board members working together with the development staff. So let's build a case for plan giving. First of all, it has great potential. Many of you may have seen this. The Giving USA numbers came out about a month ago, and in the 60-plus year history that Giving USA has been looking into these figures, the $390 billion is at its highest, and that's great for plan giving and fundraising in general. As you can see from the pie chart, if you take a look at 72% of individuals giving, if you combine that with Bequest, that's 80% of individuals who are giving to organizations. Let me break down some of these percentages for you. Individuals gave $281 billion. That's an increase of 3.9% over 2015. Foundations, a little over $59 billion. That's an increase of 3.5%. Corporations contributed about $18.5 billion. That was an increase of 3.5%. Bequests totaled 88%, or $30.36 billion. Now, I will say this, that number declined about 9% in 2016, but there is no need to panic there. Bequest giving had experienced several years of growth, and bequest giving is not necessarily tied to economic or political conditions. It really is tied into the estates of major donors. And so in 2016, we didn't have major and wealthy donors pass on. We may see that uptick in 2017. So let's take a look at some of the numbers as well as we break it down even more. The $390 billion breaks down to a little over $1 billion per day in charitable giving. Total increase was 2.7% over 2015. And individual philanthropy accounted for about 88%. And if you remember the pie slide from before, 72% of individuals gave, 8% in bequests. And then if you take a look at the family foundations, that's about another 8%. So it's a total of about 88% of all dollars came from individual philanthropy. And for only the sixth time in 40 years, all 9 major philanthropy subsectors realized giving increases. So let's take a look at the sectors. This shows you the different percentages of all the different sectors. And just to give you some additional information from Giving USA's report, environmental and animal organizations had the largest increase at approximately 7.2%, and it had strong 2-year growth rates. Giving to arts and culture and the humanities had the second largest increase. Education and public society benefit increased for the 7th consecutive year. Giving to international affairs increased for the 6th year in a row. And then giving to religion broke another record this year with an estimated $122.94 billion in donations. But religion has experienced growth in recent years, but it has grown more slowly than in some other categories. So let's talk a little bit about annual giving and planned giving. In my experience, many board members like the here and now, like that outright gift that comes in the door and makes an immediate impact. And those, of course, are great gifts. But we can't forget about planned giving. And so that's one thing that we need to educate our board members on is planned giving. And when you take a look at some of the differences compared to planned giving compared to annual giving, planned giving is much more relationship oriented. You're going to have that relationship and cultivate that relationship with your donor. I think it's very mission oriented versus a tax deduction. Many people can just simply write a check or maybe give some stock. But when you're thinking about a planned gift, there's definitely some thought there of putting a planned gift in place. That's why we call it stop and think gifts. Longer time frames, again, I mentioned that it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And with planned gifts, I think that there's more of a propensity to identify the donor's passion within that gift. So again, when you take a look at planned giving compared to annual giving, I think of annual operations and annual giving as giving from disposable income. So I call it checkbook giving. You write a check to the organization. You write a check and put it in the basket at church. Campaign giving is some more significant gifts, so maybe that comes from savings or some from investments. But really, planned gifts come from lifetime accumulated assets. So we're looking at 3 different areas of income and assets that the donor has when we compare annual giving to planned giving. Let's take a look at the portfolios of the wealthy. So when you think of annual giving, you do think of cash gifts, but look at cash only is about 6% of their portfolios. And even though that this pie chart depicts the wealthy top 10%, I do think it is applicable to many other donors, including myself. And I'm not in the top 10%. Like I have my real estate, so I have my home, and I have stocks and bonds, and I have my husband's pension and retirement assets and things like that. So I do think that this pie chart depicts more than the top 10%, but if we're only focusing on cash gifts, I think we're missing the boat because we need to be looking at other assets because there's definitely opportunity here. So another case for planned giving is that it is great timing. So let's take a look at a couple things here. The baby boomer generation is aging, and when I say the baby boomer generation, I mean those individuals that were born between about 1946 and 1964. So these individuals are about 53 to 71 this year. According to our Healthy Aging Database study, 49% of these individuals feel that it's very important to have a will. 44% actually have a will, and 32% have none. So there's great opportunities for those who have a plan in place to maybe update their plan, and for those who don't have a plan in place to put one in place and hopefully include your organization with a bequest. Donors and their professional advisors are more aware of gift planning opportunities. I see this across the board. I think professional advisors are more educated on the types of gifts that are out there. They're willing to reach out to development staff if there are questions. So I know donors have a lot of opportunities via multi-channel marketing, whether that's print or emails or on the web, to educate themselves about the various gift opportunities. Younger generations have demonstrated they possess philanthropic values, and again, I see this a lot, not only in our survey that they are interested in making gifts, but also I experienced it. I actually was in Washington, D.C. during the Scientist March, and there was a lot of young individuals demonstrating their passion for science and volunteering their time on behalf of various organizations. So I absolutely agree that the younger generations are demonstrating that they have philanthropic values. Asset values are increasing. Just before I got on this webinar, I took a look at the stock market. It's up again as of just about an hour ago. So there's no doubt that there is a lot of gains in the market, and the real estate market has rebounded since the recession. So there's a lot of opportunity there. Tax benefits for philanthropy remain intact, at least for now. The Trump administration has talked about tax reform or tax cuts by the end of the year. I know that, or it's my understanding that Speaker Ryan would like to do something by Thanksgiving. One of those things is to repeal the estate tax. The Trump administration would like to also repeal the estate tax. They would like to double the standard deduction. They would also like to compress the income tax brackets from 7 to only 3. So stay tuned for for the benefits for philanthropy and see how that changes as we approach towards the end of the year. Nearly 9 out of 10 U.S. adults, 86%, say they donate money to charity. So again, there's never been a better time to either begin your plan giving program or certainly grow it. Finally, it's simple. Why plan giving? So 9 out of 10 planned gifts will be charitable bequests. And the reason being is that it is simple. Individuals know that they need to plan. There's no additional cost to put in a gift to an organization when you create an estate plan with an attorney. Other popular gifts, beneficiary designations, transfer on death and payable on death accounts, all increasingly popular because of the simplicity. And with the beneficiary designations, the donor does not need to see an attorney on those. They simply create a form or have a form sent to them from the administrator and sign it and date it and put in what they want to do with those funds. There we go. So plan giving. Remember, it's about building relationships with current donors. So let's talk about how to give, and let's take a look at some assets that are suitable for giving. Highly appreciated stock. I touched on this earlier. The stock market is up. It's been up for a while now. There's lots of gains here. Cash, of course, always an excellent choice. Life insurance, either naming your organization as a beneficiary is a great asset to give, or if you have a donor who perhaps does not need life insurance anymore, they can certainly make you as owner and beneficiary of the life insurance, and they will be able to get a tax deduction on that in most cases. Retirement plan assets, great way. We're going to go over this a little bit more later in the webinar, but go over the tax aspects of giving retirement plan assets at death. Farmland or undeveloped land, again, real estate, homes, vacation homes. Some organizations do not accept real estate, and that's fine. You always need to look at your gift acceptance policy to determine if you accept certain types of assets. If you have not looked at your gift acceptance policy recently, I'm going to give you some homework to do. And after the webinar, I want you to pull it out, dust it off, and take a look at it. If it hasn't been updated in the last 1 or 2 years, I want you to review it. You can have the board members sign off on it. Make sure that it is consistent with your policies and procedures of what you want to accept with your organization. One question that I did get as a pre-webinar question is whether I have any forms. I do have a form for this, kind of a template for a gift acceptance policy. If you would like one, please feel free to email me after the webinar today, and I'd be happy to send it to you. It would at least get you going if your organization doesn't have one, and it can at least get you started. So the types of assets that need some special handling are on your left. It's not that you can't accept these, but you really do need to work with probably members of your board and your legal counsel before accepting the assets on your left there. There's been many great gifts of various types of these assets, but again, they require some special handling. So make sure that your gift acceptance policy is addressing those on your left, and maybe you decide that you won't accept those, and that's absolutely fine, but it should address those types of assets. The assets that you really want to avoid are if a donor comes to you, and I have had this question multiple times where a donor wants to give real estate and they've got a buyer already in place with a sales agreement and everything. There's problems there. So make sure you avoid that. Installment sales, stock options, all of those get pretty dicey. Lifetime transfers of commercial annuities and savings bonds, those can cause some significant tax implications to the donor. And a lot of times those are unintended, and then the donor gets a tax bill and isn't happy. So you really want to make sure that if the donor wants to transfer something like that, if they can, but two, they understand the tax implications for those. So let's go over the most popular plan giving vehicles. Without a doubt, charitable bequests or gift in your will or living trust. When you are talking with donors about making a gift in their will or trust, always speak in those terms. If you are not familiar with Russell James is a researcher out of Texas Tech, and he has numerous presentations about words that work, words that resonate with donors. And actually the term bequest does not resonate with donors, and I think it's because they just don't understand it. We use that term internally, and it's kind of an industry term, and certainly attorneys understand that term. But just be careful when either marketing those types of gifts or using that language when you talk with donors, because that term bequest, for whatever reason, just does not resonate with donors. Beneficiary designations. I talked a little bit about this, payable death and transfer on death accounts. The difference between those is that the payable on death is for checking and savings accounts. Transfer on death is for investment accounts, like a Charles Schwab account or an Edward Jones account. Life insurance and retirement plans, again, very easy to request a form from your administrator and put these types of gifts in place. So let's take a look at charitable bequests first. Just for those who are more visual, you have an individual here who creates a will or trust with the help of his or her estate planning attorney. And in this situation, they want to give a little bit to charity and a little bit to the heirs. So they put in provisions to name a charitable organization such as yours, and then also name their heirs or possibly their spouse as a beneficiary of their will or trust. So why are bequests popular? One, they're little cost to the donor. Once the donor has decided to create an estate plan, there's no extra cost involved in putting a charitable bequest within that plan. So it's very easy to implement. All they do is need to talk with their attorney. It doesn't hurt financially now because it is revocable. It's not something they're giving away now. They're giving it away at death. So it's not something that if they're concerned about retirement expenses, health expenses, college costs, things like that. It won't hurt them financially. Many of these donors are uncertain about their future. They may be concerned about real estate market or the stock market or health care or where they're going to live, maybe in a retirement community, and how much that will cost and things like that. So look for clues and conversations about those donors who are concerned about their level of income. A bequest might be one of the best gifts for them. So again, bequests can be made in a will, and that could be done in a new will. So a donor will need to see his or her estate planning attorney to create one. If they have an existing will, they can do an amendment called a codicil. This is fairly inexpensive. It's just simply adding your organization to their will. It'll probably be no more than 1 or 2 pages long, but they do need to see an attorney on this. I've had multiple requests over the years of, hey, could I get a sample template for a codicil? My donor would like to add our organization to their existing will. That's a legal document that needs to be drafted by an attorney and signed in the presence, most likely, of 2 witnesses. So just make sure that your donor goes back to the attorney who originally did their will, or back to maybe the best would be an estate planning attorney. Revocable trusts work the same way. Most individuals who set up these may have a higher net wealth, or they may have real estate in a couple states, so they may live in Iowa but have a summer or a winter home in Florida or Arizona or someplace like that. They would probably set up a revocable trust. Of course, they can set up a new one with an estate planning attorney, or if they have one, they can simply do an amendment. Again, it works like a codicil. It needs to be handled and drafted by an attorney. Bequests can be made in various ways. There can be a specific dollar amount, so I give $10,000 to my favorite charitable organization. It can also be a specific asset. The most popular ones I see are typically shares of stock and real estate, where they want to give a specific item to an organization. And this was actually one of my pre-webinar questions of what works best. Percentages work best to give to an organization, so like suggesting 10% of the residue. And the reason being is because that fluctuates with the value of the estate over the years. When the donor puts an estate plan in place, their assets they are thinking are a certain amount. That obviously can increase, decrease with the market, with health plans and things like that. So it remains proportionate to the estate. So if a donor says, well, what do you think? What should I do? The percentages will work best. Contingent bequest, these are also very popular, where they want to take care of maybe a spouse, but if that spouse is no longer living at the time of their death, then it goes to your organization. So that's a contingent bequest. It would be giving it to the spouse, but if the spouse is not alive at the time, then it does go to the charitable organization. If your donor doesn't have a will, and unfortunately only about 33% of Americans over 18 have a will, so it's the amount of people that fall into this category is very high. The state in where the donor resides will determine how those assets are distributed. And there is no state out there that states, I give some assets to my family and some assets to charity. Everything will go to their heirs in some proportions. Now, it will differ per state, but there is no provision out there that allows for charitable bequests. So with bequests, there's no current income tax deduction. The reason being is because it's revocable. There is an estate tax charitable deduction at death, but just remember that the current administration would like to repeal that, and it could be repealed by the end of the year, so that might not be an issue. And then there's no limit on how much the donor can give. So the donor can give 100% to charity if he or she wishes. So let's take a look at the case study. Here's Patricia, and she's a longtime supporter for your organization, and she's made annual gifts. So she's made gifts every year, last 10 years. She values everything that you do in your community, and she doesn't really want to give something now, but she definitely wants to continue her support after her lifetime. So Patricia meets with her attorney and includes a bequest to your organization. She decides on a dollar amount. She feels she wants to give $25,000, and now she continues to support continue her legacy and giving and to support the causes she cares about. So let's take a look at James and Mary here. They would like to make an immediate impact. They have life insurance they no longer need, and you'll find this among your donors who are a little bit older. Many individuals take out life insurance because they want, if something happens to them, they want to make sure that their expenses are paid for their children or college expenses or things like that. But as the kids have graduated college and they're on their own, they may not leave life insurance. So there's a clue of a conversation that they don't need their life insurance anymore, and the kids are on their own and doing well. They've expressed some low return over their stock portfolio, so there could be some low dividends there. And they would like to support your organization after their lifetime. So here we have a blended gift opportunity. So James and Mary makes an outright gift of the life insurance that they no longer need. They set up a charitable gift annuity with your organization, and they transfer the appreciated stock that was giving them low dividends, and because of the ACGA rates, that's providing them more income than it was as opposed to their dividend income. And then finally, they update their wills, and they use what's called a codicil, as I explained earlier, and include a charitable bequest to your organization. So now they are able to make an impact now, and they get a little something in between by getting the annuity payment from the CGA, and then, of course, in the future with their bequest. So I ask you, how are you promoting bequests? Does your website promote bequests? Are you promoting it in your email signature? That's a great way to remind donors that that's a great type of planned gift to put in place. An example would just be, please remember us in your will, under your email signature line. Reply cards, website. Remember, if you actively promote bequests, you'll receive twice the dollar amount than if you don't. So it could be very simple as adding a line in your email to more extensive to obviously print and digital, email, things like that. But definitely I recommend a multi-channel marketing process. So let's take a look at beneficiary designations. Again, these are very easy to do. Payable on death, transfer on death, life insurance, and retirement plan assets. They are simple and fast. I could go right now to our HR, ask her for a life insurance beneficiary change form, and change the life insurance beneficiary probably within the next 10 minutes. So it's very easy to do. Percentages work best. Again, sometimes these assets can fluctuate, especially the retirement plan assets will fluctuate in value. So percentages work best. And you can still do a primary contingent type of beneficiary designation on those. So let's look at account designations. These are great, but I do want to say that state law governs these accounts. So I want to make sure that you ask your local advisor about what is in your state law. But for the most part, they are available in a vast majority of states. I do know, as my understanding, Louisiana does not have transfer on death accounts, but I believe they do have payable on death accounts. So it's simply meeting with their bank advisor or their investment advisor to fill out a form to have these assets paid directly to your organization or to their heirs when they pass away. So the general donor profile for this organization is similar to that of a bequest. They would like to continue support of their organization. They don't need an income tax deduction, but these individuals are a little hesitant to meet with an attorney. So for one reason or another, they have some reservations, so a beneficiary designation would work very well for them. Let's go on to life insurance. Here's a general donor profile. Again, it could be somebody who's older, who doesn't need the life insurance. In this case, she wants to make a gift after her lifetime, and she'd be able to make a more significant gift, giving life insurance, than maybe she would otherwise. She doesn't need the income tax deduction now, and she doesn't necessarily have the assets to give now. So she's putting something in place for after her lifetime, and of course she has the flexibility to change her mind since it's a revocable type of designation. Retirement plan assets, some of my favorite assets to give. Here are some types of qualified plans that we're going to talk about. IRAs and 401ks probably being the most popular. 403bs, typically those individuals who have been in the education sector will have 403b accounts. So you've got a couple options for these accounts, so let's go through them. Lifetime gifts of IRA assets. For those individuals who are 59 and a half to 70 and a half, they can make a lifetime gift. It's a two-step process. They need to take a distribution from their IRA or other retirement plan. Then they write it. Then they take that distribution. They will pay tax on that income. They will pay tax on that distribution, and then they will write a check to your organization. If your donor itemizes, they are able to take an income tax charitable deduction for the amount of the gift. For gifts of IRA assets only, in age 70 and a half or older, the IRA charitable rollover is out there. They made it permanent. It is still a great gift, and as we get through midsummer here and into the fall is the best time to promote this type of gift because many individuals have not taken their required minimum distributions yet. They've just kept it in the account, thinking they're going to take it later on. So this is a great time to start thinking about marketing for the fall, this type of gift. Distributions, if given directly to a qualified charity, will not be subject to federal income tax, and they have to be transferred outright. The donor can't receive the funds and then write a check to your organization. They do not get an income tax charitable deduction on it, but that distribution will not be subject to federal income tax. The other option is to leave it to family. Obviously, the donor can leave it to their heirs, their spouse, but just remember that retirement plan assets, as of right now, can be subject to twofold taxation. That's estate taxes, and that's the federal estate tax that I'm talking about, and then income tax. So if I were to leave my assets right now, and I have an estate value of over $5.5 million, my estate will be subject to estate tax. And so my IRA or retirement plan will be taxed first at the estate tax level, and then when my heirs take the distributions out, they will be taxed at their ordinary income tax rate when they take it out. And when you run the numbers, it could be as much as almost 60% of the account could go to taxes. So leaving retirement plan assets to family, many organizations will recommend that maybe you leave the retirement plan assets to charity because, of course, they can receive it tax-free, and then leave other assets like life insurance and investments account and real estate to other family members. Of course, the great option is what we all want, is to leave everything to charity. This eliminates all estate and all income taxes. So your organization would not pay any taxes on that and receive 100% of the proceeds. So here's just for those who are, again, who are visual, you can name a charity as a beneficiary of all or part of the retirement plan assets. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing. I know some donors get stuck on whether it has to be 100% or not. It does not. They can do percentages, again, work best. The charity receives the balance of the plan at donor's death, and ultimately everything goes to the charitable organization. But what many donors would like to do is to leave part to family and part to charity. Their retirement plan assets are at such a point where they have to, they would like to leave to both. And that's fine, but you can also look at it from a different way. So let's take a look at this example where we have Jan, who has a $1.5 million estate. And Jan's line of thinking is like many donors out there. She says, okay, well, I have an IRA and I have some other assets, and I think and it's about $500,000 each, or a $500,000 estate, and I'm just going to divide everything equally. So that's our option one. She just takes everything 50% each. But really, if you take a look at the option one, it's not treating everyone equally because her daughter, Sandra, is going to have to pay income tax on those IRA funds when she takes distributions out. And in this scenario, she's going to pay $106,000 worth of income tax on the $375,000. So her net amount is $646,000, where the charity does get the $750,000. But if the plan giving officer talks with Jan and says, hey, why don't you can still treat everyone equally, but think about it in a different way. Give us the IRA, the asset that's heavily taxed, and make us 100% beneficiary, and give Sandra everything else, and now everybody's treated equally. So this is a very powerful slide. I've used this in a number of occasions, and I know a lot of our clients have used this with donors as well, just to make this point of you can, just by dividing assets in different ways, you can minimize taxes. So let's take a look at next steps here. Again, it's time for a plan giving marketing program. Your board needs to get on board with this. 78% of plan givers are also annual givers. And I know Russell James's research also states this as well, that many annual givers are more likely to be plan givers. And he also states that annual givers may increase their annual giving if they are plan givers. 70% of donors who made plan gifts did so because they were asked. And this goes back to one of my earlier slides, that the board of directors can do better about asking for gifts. And so if they just simply ask, you very well may receive a gift. Only 33% of American adults have a will. We talked about this. I would like this number to go a lot higher, although it's been this way for a long time. Again, if your donor does not have a will, he or she will not be included in their assets that they have. Beneficiary designations pass outside the will, so that could be something different. But if you're not included in a will, there would be no chance for a bequest. Plan gifts cost less. This talks about 25% per dollar raised compared to 35% for annual gifts. I've actually seen that average for plan gifts go as low as like 5 to 15%, and it really depends on whether your organization is new at this, is new to plan giving, or has a robust plan giving and you're moving along. So it really depends on whether the timing of your plan giving program, of how much it costs. But overall, no matter what the time of your program is, whether it's in the infant stages or it's a very experienced program, it's always less than raising for annual gifts. Typical plan gifts is equivalent to 400 annual gifts. So if you just get one planned gift, that's a lot less phone calls you'll have to make for annual gifts. Identify plan giving prospects, and sometimes maybe board members will have a hard time figuring out who their donors are or who likely their donors will be. Age 40 and older. Again, I talked about younger donors coming on board, especially those who are, marching like last year in some of the marches and things like that and protests. So they are coming on board, and we're seeing those numbers change in Giving USA numbers in 2016. So 40 and older, giving history to your organization, that doesn't always need to be financial. That can also be time. So make sure you take a look at your volunteers. Take a look at those who have donated the last 3 to 5 years and really have given a gift of any size. You could have a dedicated volunteer who can only afford to give, $25 or $100 or something like that, but at the same time has a substantial estate. You just never know. Education and income are also factors to identify planned gift prospects. So get board buy-in for your plan giving program. I've seen several boards develop committees, like a development committee or a plan giving committee. Training board members to fundraise for planned gifts. Again, not all of us are fundraisers, and not all your board members are fundraisers. Each board member brings a unique aspect to your organization, and they may not be a fundraiser. So make sure that you're helping them fundraise. I love the idea of a mentor-mentee relationship. If you have board members who just are not comfortable with either talking about planned gifts or fundraising, pair them up. Pair them up with an advanced development staff member who's been there for several years, and have them go on a joint call together out to see a donor. Start with less complex gifts. So start with the gifts that I talked about today, and you can build on that. So talk about bequests and beneficiary designations, and then maybe build on that to charitable gift annuities or various types of charitable trusts. Each board member can contribute in various ways, and maybe they're not all fundraisers, and I understand that, but there are other ways that they can contribute, and whether that's reviewing your plan giving marketing materials and offering some thoughts on that, giving their impact stories, how they donated, things like that they could use. And again, review or create your gift acceptance policy, and do it in tandem with them. So best practices, board members need to talk about how to identify good plan giving prospects. This will open the door to new prospects. Help them with the cultivation of prospects. You may know many more people in the community than they do, and maybe assist in that cultivation. Donor events are great to assist in this, where you can introduce them maybe to your high-level donors. That goes into the next one of hosting plan giving events. Your board members, many of them may be attorneys or financial planners or CPAs, and they can offer your donors maybe a lunch or a luncheon or a donor and speak about estate planning or tax planning and things like that. Join a team. This webinar was about being a team, and I can't emphasize that enough, but to pair individuals together, make personal calls, go on visits, things like that, go to donor events together, and make their own planned gift and be ready to talk about that. I challenge you to have every board member make a planned gift by the end of the year. So I'm after 100% participation for not only board members, but for development staff as well. So I do have a couple resources here for you. The Complete Guide of Planned Giving is just a great reference material, especially for those who are new to plan giving and new maybe to this arena. It really talks about the plan gifts that not only we talked about today, but goes into other types of plan gifts and really brings it down to a basic level. The next one is a fundraising guide for nonprofit board members, so I thought this would be a good tool for your board members. And then BoardSource is a great website, and they have great supporting materials and research about board members. So certainly look for those. So I have just a few minutes, and I'm going to take a couple of them here. Somebody asked about timeshares. Is accepting a timeshare a bad gift? You definitely, many organizations do not accept them. I will say that right off the top. Take a look at your gift acceptance policy. It may say that they are not accepted. You really need to be cautious with timeshares. I don't want to say that they are a bad gift, but be very, very cautious. The timeshare is very hard to resell, to market, and everything like that. So actually many organizations shy away from them and do not accept them. So be very, very careful. If there's a market for it, then it may be beneficial to your organization, but I would exercise caution. Let's see. Looking at a couple other things here. Whoops. Any suggestions for engaging a reluctant board or organization leadership in beginning the process? I would recommend trying to get in front of the board during their meetings and maybe start with, maybe 15-minute presentations. Don't necessarily take up the whole time, but I would start and trying to reach out to them. I would try to do one-on-ones, like go to lunch with various board members, talk one-on-one with them, and again about mentor-mentee relationships. So they may be reluctant because they don't either understand it or don't know the process or don't understand the process. Education is key for a reluctant board. So make sure that you are educating your board and various members and really kind of taking maybe some or most of them under your wing to get them more comfortable with plan giving. Let's see. I've got a couple other questions here. I'm not going to get to all of them. Here's one that I received. We have a very senior past donors, age 85 to 95, who are still alive but have not been contacted for a while. I am new. Does it make sense to send a newsletter or two and then plan giving info, or just delete them from the list? I definitely would not delete them from the list. These individuals are possibly in their final estate planning stages, given their ages, so I definitely would get in front of them. The best way to do that is through a personal visit, if that's possible, or even a personalized phone call, but definitely reach out to these donors. If they've been donors in the past, you want to hope that they include you in the future. And if you just drop them off your list if they do decide to update their estate plan in their final stages, then they could take you off and remove you. So definitely continue to connect with them personally would be best. How can we best promote plan giving? I recommend a multi-channel marketing process. That way it'll reach all types of donors, whether they're young or older. And that by multi-channel, I mean print material, emails, and on your website. So that is, I know I have a lot more questions, but I am out of time. I'll be looking at these and seeing if I can answer them after the webinar. But if Jen wants to close it out here, thank you again for your time today. I really appreciate all of you participating.
Thanks so much, Lynn. We do have a lot of questions here that Lynn didn't get to, so if there's some question that you had sent in that you would really like an answer to, Lynn has provided her email address, contact information there, and she is willing to speak with you through email and maybe get some of those things answered for you. If you additionally have questions on Stelter's products or services, you can reach out to Stelter.com or visit us at Stelter.com. Finally, one of the most popular questions I get throughout the webinar is, can we get the slides and did you record it? And the answer to both of those questions is yes. I did want to say one thing about the slides. I did email them out to many of you this morning, so look for that in your inbox. There's also a new functionality with GoToWebinar. If you look on your screen right now in your tools area, underneath where you have the audio and the questions pane, there should be a pane that's called Handouts, and there is a PDF of the slides right there that you can download straight from there. You can do that right now. Or if you have a problem finding that, I am going to post the handouts along with the recording on our website at Stelter.com/webinars. That should be up, barring any technical difficulties, so be ready by Monday. So go ahead and check that out. And while you're there, you can also register for any of our other webinars. Our next webinar is August 23rd, and it is hosted by Ann Melvin, who is the Director of Training and Education and Development for Harvard University, and that webinar is called Metrics That Motivate. So check that out along with the rest of our webinars for the rest of the year. Again, thank you so much for joining us today and spending the last hour with us. We hope you found it beneficial, and we hope to talk to you again next month. Thanks so much. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.